is never quite good news necessarily. It is serious business. If you are summoned by your host state, it means there is serious information that you're being given. But if you're summoned by capital for instructions, then most likely there are also very, very serious things to be discussed. Your Excellency, we summoned not an ambassador, but your ambassadors who are appointed by your hand to this conference. Yes, it is called the 19th convening, but for us, it is a coming together because we are in a way at a moment of reckoning. Reckoning, Your Excellency, because externally, the globe is going through tremendous challenges. Challenges that now compel us to think together as one about how we can protect our national interest. But again, Your Excellency, it's also a moment of reckoning because internally, through your leadership, you have summoned the nation to focus her attention to an extremely progressive agenda. And you have made the determination that you want to take this nation to a first world status within our lifetime. Now, Your Excellency, that's a gigantic task. And these, your ambassadors, stand in a place of uniqueness because they are your frontline soldiers with respect to the mobilization of resources and the curation of partnerships. That's the reason we are gathered this morning, Your Excellency, and over the next 3 days, to be able to agree together what our call of action is and how we must conduct our diplomacy in these intense and disruptive times. If you permit me, Your Excellency, we are already repositioning the way we do business within the foreign mission and within the foreign ministry. First, Your Excellency, with respect to diplomatic infrastructure across the globe, we have, at the moment, within 29 missions, well over 60 pieces of property. These pieces of property, they may be chancelleries, they may be head of mission houses, etc., etc. This infrastructure, Your Excellency, is not optimized. As a result, we are paying in excess of 15% of our recurrent expenditure, which is about 3 billion, towards rent. Over the last 1 year, Your Excellency, because of your leadership and your innovative ideas around financing, we are talking with National Treasury to develop a program for the optimization of these assets through the PPP framework. And I'm pleased, Your Excellency, to say that already about 10 of these properties are being pipelined for pilot development. Secondly, Your Excellency, on the economic diplomacy side, we are on the verge of rolling out a comprehensive program that would enable us to deal with the way we do our economic diplomacy differently. And that's why James Mwangi and Felix are here this morning, because we've been working around a partnership in that respect. Thirdly, Your Excellency, we are working with you in the agenda around positioning Nairobi as the global hub for multilateralism in the global south. In that respect, Your Excellency, late last year we commissioned a study to look at how other multilateral stations are conducting their business. What kind of privileges are they putting forward? You know, what kind of benefits, what kind of infrastructure and institutional arrangements have been put in place to ensure that these capitals can attract more diplomatic capital, you know, to their jurisdiction. As a result of that, Your Excellency, that study is now complete. We are revamping and reinvigorating our privileges and immunities framework. And for the very first time, towards the mid of this year, we will be convening a conference on privileges and immunities bringing together over 400 organizations that already enjoy this status within our capital, and asking ourselves the question, number one, what are you doing for Kenya and with Kenya? And then number two, how better can we serve you? Lastly, Your Excellency, we are also pivoting towards the people. By that I mean making diplomacy less about sitting in hotels and more about service provision and about explaining why we do what we do in the way we do it to the people. We're working with young people through the Kenya Model United Nations program, as well as our diplomacy machinani to be able to advance that imperative. Your Excellency, that's how we are retooling our current toolbox, and it is our persuasion that with that and with your inspired leadership in the manner in which you have positioned our country, Your Excellency, our diplomacy will stand even more elevated. Allow me with those few words, Your Excellency, to yield the floor now to His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Dr. Musalia.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, my brother, the Honorable Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, distinguished guests, diplomats, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we are greatly honored by your gracious presence at the 19th edition of the Kenya Ambassadors Conference. Today is a Saturday. We have pulled you away from the field. So bear with us. For decades, we have maintained this noble tradition of convening co-actors in our foreign policy formulation and implementation to reflect on our achievements, deliberate on the challenges that we face in the execution of our mandate, and most importantly, develop forward-looking and sustainable solutions that advance Kenya's national interests. The conference presents an annual opportunity for our envoys to engage at high level, including the appointing authority, His Excellency the President, our nation's chief diplomat, and to interact with leadership across all arms of government. Therefore, as the representatives of our President abroad, you will receive briefs and updates on key developments in the country. Furthermore, I encourage you to share your experiences with one another in the spirit of collegiality and the collective good of our country. Notably, the conference takes place at the time of remarkable foreign policy achievements under the administration of His Excellency, President William Ruto. Kenya has elevated its role in regional and global peace and security, enhanced participation in multilateral fora, advanced its niche diplomacy in climate change action, and diversified bilateral partnerships that continue to unlock development opportunities for our country. Your Excellency, through our foreign policy, we continue to advance your administration's plan by negotiating and concluding bilateral agreements that support the following pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. First, the agricultural transformation. The Kenya-China Early Harvest Agreement, concluded in March 2026, grants duty-free, quota-free access for 98% of Kenyan agricultural products into the Chinese market. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, removes tariffs on over 80% of goods boosting trade in key agricultural exports such as tea and meat. Additional frameworks include the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership Agreement, the Kenya-Hungary Agriculture MOU, the Kenya-UK Partnership Agreement, and Kenya's engagement with the US under the African Growth Opportunity Act. On healthcare, the 2025 5-year Kenya-US Health Cooperation Framework marks a significant shift to direct government-to-government funding, strengthening programs on universal healthcare, UHC, malaria, TB, and HIV/AIDS. And today, I think in one of the main media outlets, Duale has put out a very spirited message on this particular issue. Several of these agreements are also broad in scope and contribute directly or indirectly to other better pillars, including housing and settlement, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, economy, and the digital superhighway and creative economy. Other notable agreements include Kenya-Mozambique in March 2026, which enhances digital transformation and expands opportunities for small-scale traders. The Italy Partnership, which supports youth empowerment and the creative economy in 2026. The Kenya-Ethiopia Agreement, which promotes cross-border trade and growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises. We also have the Kenya-Senegal program in 2025 October, which advances youth and sports development, among others. Your Excellency, this is a brief overview of the Ministry's contributions to your economic transformation plan, delivered not in isolation, but with the whole of government framework. As a ministry, we have made tremendous progress since the inauguration of your administration, the launch of the Kenya Foreign Policy and the Sessional Paper No. 1 of 2025 presents renewed clarity in our external engagements. We have followed this milestone by adopting open diplomacy, including rolling out the Foreign Policy Mashinani initiative. This is an appreciation that Kenyan citizens, too, have a stake in advancing our foreign policy objectives. It also serves as a strategic platform to communicate our activities and achievements and mitigate against misinformation and disinformation. Your Excellency, we wanted to make sure that Kenyans are not foreign to their own foreign policy. We also have expanded our diplomatic footprint in 72 missions in strategic countries and regions. In doing so, we have ensured a more cost-effective, impactful, and strategic deployment of the limited resources at our disposal, including multiple accreditations and deployment of honorary councils. Your Excellency, your foresight in establishing for the first time in Kenya's diplomatic history a State Department for Diaspora Affairs was a transformative decision. Presently, Kenyan diaspora is at the center of government policies. Today, the safety, dignity, and welfare of our diaspora is more adequately and effectively safeguarded, despite increased cases of Kenyans in distress abroad due to the growing global turbulence. In addition to the 24-hour diaspora call center, our missions continue to provide consular services through the innovative mobile system. Your Excellency, through your support and strategic guidance, diaspora investments and remittances have vastly increased, making our diaspora a major contributor to national progress. The Diaspora Investment Support Office and the Diaspora Investment Strategy, launched in 2025, aim to enable the channeling of these remittances from predominantly household consumption to actual investments, We shall count on our ambassadors to continue engaging the diaspora on investment opportunities available back home. Finally, in today's evolving global landscape, the continent is in need of a leading voice for African agency. As our envoys, you are called to shape the direction and future of African diplomacy. We must amplify that our president is the champion of the African Union institutional reform and chair of COMESA. We must also highlight Kenya's leadership in promoting the intra-African trade and the African Continental Free Trade Area. This conference should inspire our individual and collective commitment to safeguarding our national interests and advancing Kenya's national agenda for a peace-centered prosperity. Our supreme enterprise is to enhance the brand Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, I have already indicated that we have pulled His Excellency away from a very busy schedule, so I come to the end of my remarks. It is now my great honor to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his address and officially open the conference. Let us all be upstanding to welcome our President. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. We meet at a moment of profound change in the global order, an era marked by deep and often unpredictable disruptions. Today, long-standing multilateral frameworks that once anchored international cooperation are steadily eroding as new currents of unilateralism and sovereign-first doctrines emerge, reshaping both the terms and tone of engagements among nations. Recent developments, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, underscore how quickly tensions can disrupt economic stability. In such a moment, it is critical that we take a deliberate and collective pause to reflect with honesty and think with clarity about the world as it is becoming and our place within it. It is therefore a distinct honor for me to join you at this 19th Ambassadors Conference as you deliberate on how best to advance Kenya's interests in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. I've had the opportunity to review your program for the next 4 days of this conference, and I am impressed by the breadth and depth. It reflects a comprehensive agenda that engages the full spectrum of our diplomatic priorities, from economic diplomacy and the realities of an emerging polycentric global order to peace and security, as well as climate diplomacy and green industrialization. It also covers science, technology, and innovation, global health diplomacy, and the oceans and blue economy, among other critical areas shaping our engagement with the world. My role today, therefore, is not to delve into the operational details of diplomacy, but rather to offer at least 4 broad-based imperatives that should frame and guide your deliberations. First, I want to appreciate that Kenya today approaches this engagement with the world from a position of far greater strength than was the case 3 years ago. By any credible measure, whether economic stability, fiscal discipline, our institutional resilience, the direction is unmistakable. Kenya is not only steady, but it is also on the rise. Consider, for instance, our sovereign debt position. 36 months ago, Kenya was counted among 6 African countries widely projected to default on their foreign debt obligations. 5 of those countries defaulted. Kenya did not. This is not by chance or luck. It was the outcome of deliberate and often difficult policy choices. We undertook necessary reforms by rationalizing expenditure, streamlining our budget, and making tough decisions, including the removal of unsustainable consumption subsidies. Today, Kenya stands as the 6th largest economy in Africa, with a GDP of approximately $136 billion, and continues to register a steady annual growth rate of about 5%. The shilling, which was once in steep decline, has stabilized and remained steady against the dollar for the last 2 years at around 129 shillings to a dollar. We have also enhanced our foreign exchange reserves that stood at 2.5 months of import cover in 2022. Now we are at 7.5 months of import cover. We have moved our foreign exchange reserves from $5.7 billion to $14.6 billion this year. And in another couple of months, we should be anywhere around $16 billion. The recent upgrade of Kenya's sovereign rating by Standard & Poor's is another clear and credible affirmation of the confidence that global markets have in the direction we have taken. Equally, we have significantly reduced inflation, which was at about 9.6%, to an average of 4.3% today, further reinforcing the stability we have worked hard to achieve. In terms of investment, despite global headwinds, our foreign direct investment inflows in 2025, for the first time, crossed the $2 billion mark. And just this week, in our Kenya International Investment Conference, we signed on to new investments in Kenya of $2.9 billion in 10 counties in Kenya. Investments from the United States, from China, from Australia, from India, from the UK, and different parts of the world, demonstrating that more companies across the globe have confidence in our economy and in the investment opportunities that exist in our country. And these were in different sectors including agriculture, real estate, manufacturing, mining, energy, ICT, and business process outsourcing. These investments undoubtedly expands opportunities for employment for our young people in Kenya and contributes to tax revenues as well as our overall development. This is what we mean when we say Kenya is ready and open for business. Today, Kenya is home to more than 300 multinational corporations. The fact that foreign investors are increasingly choosing Kenya, committing their capital, and backing our future should tell us something profound. It is a clear vote of confidence in the direction we have taken as a country, affirming that Kenya is getting our fundamentals right. Excellencies, these gains must be projected outward. This is the true measure of your work. You are called upon to articulate, position, and present to the world the full breadth of Kenya's potential, to tell our story with conviction and to translate that promise into partnerships that deliver tangible outcomes for the people of Kenya. The second point I want you to bear in mind is that this administration is firmly committed to fulfilling our commitments to the people of Kenya as is contained in our bottom-up transformation agenda manifesto. For the first time, we have demonstrated that a manifesto is not a piece of paper. It is not a newspaper. It is a document of governance and a covenant with the people. When I went to canvass leadership with the people of Kenya, we put out a very ambitious program for the development of our country. Many people thought we overpromised. In fact, last Sunday, I was somewhere in Homa Bay, and after the church service, there was supposed to be a communication by the bishops of that area. Initially, I thought it was about how they want to build the church and how they want to have more missionaries. But it was not that. It ended up being a political statement. And the bishop who read the letter on the behalf of the others said something very profound to me. He said, "Mr. President, we all believed that you had overpromised. And we knew that this was the usual politicians' talk when they are looking for votes. But," he said, "we have seen something different." And that is the case. We are re-engineering our nation, and we are re-engineering our political discourse. That what leaders promise, they must deliver. That when we make commitments, we must have the plan to execute and to make them reality. Today, I say with a lot of confidence, we made a commitment on matters education. We had 4 fundamental difficulties. We had a CBC that wasn't working. We had a shortage of teachers that was chronic. We had a shortage of learning spaces that was serious. And we had a funding model for our universities that was making our universities, crippling actually our universities, and making them insolvent. Today, we have kept our word. We have closed the gap, literally, on teacher shortage. We've hired the highest number of teachers in Kenya's history in 3 years, 100,000. And we will be hiring another 20,000 this year to make sure that every learner has a good opportunity to acquire knowledge. With partners, and on this I want to thank our friends from the World Bank and members of Parliament. We have built 23,000 new classrooms, expanding learning spaces. I remember last week I was in Mount Elgon, and our friends in Safaricom, M-Pesa actually, who had invited me once to an academy here in Thika, which was their flagship. And when I went to the academy, it was a really, really high-class academy with a swimming pool, heated badminton, squash, that thing they play in squash, and all the other, fancy and very high-quality stuff. But I then advised them when I went there that this is wonderful. It's giving close to 400 of our young people good opportunities to learn in a very high-end institution. But I told them they weren't making as much impact as they would if they looked beyond one academy in Nairobi. I was with them in Mount Elgon. They had built 36 classrooms, and they had built actually literally a whole school with 1,000 plus kids in Mount Elgon. And the chair of the foundation was almost shedding tears as he saw the hope they had built in very ordinary children in very remote places. I am saying this to contextualize what it means to have learning spaces. We have reorganized the whole space around competence-based education. We have engaged stakeholders afresh. Teachers did not have a clarity. Parents were complaining that they were doing too much homework at home. But finally, we have found a balance between what parents need to do, what teachers need to do, what learners need to do, and we now have a fair balance. And finally, we have put in place a funding model that is student-centered, so that we assess every student on the basis of need and merit. Today, if you ask any vice chancellor in any university in Kenya, they have a working funding model. As I said, we decided to reorganize our agriculture. We had an agricultural sector that was not run on the basis of data. So we did the first thing to register all farmers and put them on a digital platform. We subsequently undertook all other interventions on the basis of knowledge of our farmers. We now have a database of 7.2 million farmers with their acreage, with the crops they undertake, with their livestock, sugarcane farmers, tea farmers, avocado farmers, and everything else in between. And today, we have turned around our productivity. Our fertilizer subsidy program is working. And today, if you ask coffee farmers, they will tell you, we have chased all the cartels and the brokers and the middlemen. And we've done the same in our milk industry. We've done the same in our sugar industry. We've done the same everywhere else. So we have digitized our farming. We have gotten rid of cartels. We are getting it right today. And yesterday I was in Kiambu. And the coffee farmers there will tell you that coffee, which they were selling for between 50 and 70 shillings a kilo, today they are selling it at between 120 and 150 shillings a kilo. The sugarcane farmers will tell you a same story. Sugarcane farmers used to be paid after anywhere between 6 months and 1 year. Today, sugarcane farmers are paid every 7 days. That is what transformation looks like in practice. So, we still have some work to do. And I'm saying this so that you don't fall prey to the shenanigans in the social media. If you read the social media, you will think Kenya is going to collapse tomorrow. We have undertaken some most consequential undertakings in the space around health. You all know, and statistics stand out with clarity, that every year, close to 1 million citizens ended up in poverty because of hospital bills. And health was slowly becoming a privilege for those who can afford, rather than what Article 43 of the Constitution says, that it is a right for every citizen. That was one of the most difficult subjects we had to address ourselves to. It took us almost a year of trying to figure out how this was going to happen, but finally, we passed 4 pieces of legislation, actually 5, and a 6th one is on the way, to underwrite and to underpin our health transformation. Today, we have 30 million plus Kenyans registered in SHA. The story there is very different. There are less and less harambes on matters health. We have more and more testimonies of people who are saying, SHA paid for me 20,000, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, and on and on. And this is not just in towns, in villages, and everywhere else. It is probably one of the largest undertakings that any administration has taken because it's a very difficult space. But I am very, very confident that finally we have the right template to undertake universal health and finally make health truly a right for every citizen. We have also, by way of making sure that we do what we committed to the people of Kenya, on matters young people, you know, every family, every region of Kenya, because we are a nation of young people, have young people out of school, out of college, and they do not have jobs. And this is everywhere. You go to every town, you go to every city, you go to every village, and that's the case. And we've had this conversation many years, you know, that the economy is going to expand and therefore we are going to create jobs. But jobs can not be created unless there is intentional, deliberate, practical interventions. So we decided to do 5 things. Number 1, we undertook the housing program, not just to have decent living conditions and housing for our citizens, but to also as a means of creating opportunities for work. As you all know, it was one of the most difficult things to do because it involved, you know, a framework where we had to contribute. And so, if you read in the Azimio Manifesto, there was housing. In the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, there was housing. But when it came to the implementation, there was a big problem. Nobody wanted to do it. And we were taken to court, there were demonstrations, and many other things. But we stood our ground, and today I stand before you to tell you the skyline of Kenya is changing. Go to anywhere in Kenya, from Busia, I was there last week, to Kisumu, to Migori, to Kuria, Kericho, Eldoret, Kitui. I was in Makueni. In fact, in Makueni, the senator of Makueni, who has been saying nothing is happening. So when I went with him to the housing, he was shocked that it was in Wote. And not just that, we have 640,000 young people working. Architects, engineers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, masons, and everybody in between. In fact, at some point, the debate was, oh, William Ruto is talking about Mjengo. can his children go and work at the Mjengo? But good people, explain to me, which is the workplace of the architect? And the engineer? And the mason? And the carpenter? So if you go to university to learn engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, and all the other engineerings, mechanical engineering, and architects, the only place you will make meaning with what you have learned is Mjengo. There is no other place. If there is no Mjengo, you are useless. It's just as simple as that. Yesterday, I was in Thika. In Thika, in Kiambu alone, we are building 18,000 housing units at a cost of 45 billion in one county. There has never been an investment of 45 billion in one project in any county in Kenya. So we are changing. Today, the contracts we have signed on using the housing fund are contracts of 640 billion across Kenya. Markets, hostels for our university, TVET and KMTC students, housing. I just handed over houses in Kapsabet. I handed over houses in Kakamega. I will be handing over houses in Kirinyaga. There are some that are ready in Ruiru. And that process will be continuing. The most fundamental thing to me is that by next year, we will have 1 million young people working in our housing program. Real people working. We also designed because we are a very tech-savvy country. So we designed a program around digital jobs and business process outsourcing. And today, in our ICT hubs, in our Jitume centers, in business process outsourcing, companies that are registered here in Kenya, and there are many. In fact, the largest business process outsourcing company in the world, called Teleperformer, just shifted to Kenya. So we have close to 300,000 people working now in that space. I remember when we were at the conference this week, one American company, ADEC, will be setting up a 2,000 person capacity in Machakos County as part of the expansion of that footprint. And many more are stepping in because our human capital is good. We speak probably some of the best English anywhere in the world. But do we say? And on and on and on. So our projection is that we should be able to appropriate at least 1 million young people working in our digital jobs space in the next between 1 and 2 years. We are extending the fiber optic because it's going to be a very important tool for that exercise around the country. We've already done 30,000 kilometers. Our plan is to have 100,000 kilometers so that business process outsourcing can be set up anywhere in Kenya. It doesn't have to be Nairobi. It doesn't have to be around Nairobi. We should be able to do that in many parts of our country. We also decided that because we have some of the best human capital in the world, that we use it as part of our export. And that is why Rosalind here has been working with me to clean up the channel for accessing jobs overseas. We had to clean up the system because we had too many brokers. We had many recruiting agencies that were crooked and defrauded many people of their money. So we have registered close to 1,000 of those companies. So we have made it leaner, and we are still reorganizing that space. But just with what we have done, including cutting down on time to access travel papers, including passports and what have you, today we have a clean channel for people who have employment opportunities abroad. Rosalind, it takes now how many days to get a passport if I have a job abroad? 2 days. That's how long it takes, between 2 and 3 days. And as a result, mark this, as a result of what we have done in the last 3 years, 540,000 Kenyans have gotten jobs abroad. And our remittance from abroad has increased by $1 billion. Yes. So, and I can go on, but that's the space we are working with the young people of Kenya, including what we are doing to access to credit, the big program we have around Nyota, which is going to benefit close to 820,000 young people with skills, with startup resources. And this is all to make our country competitive. One more thing I need to tell you is to be able to reorganize our economy. Economists will tell us, those who went to school and read economics. I did not. So it's on the basis of the information I get from them, is that investment is a function of savings. You cannot invest what you don't have. And so we decided that we need to create a bigger pool of resources through savings, especially mandatory savings. And our National Social Security Fund, which is the public savings entity, was not properly aligned. And we did this with President Uhuru in 2015, I think. But there was a lot of manenos and things. But of course, when I came into office, I said, this is one area I must correct. We did implement the changes that were necessary. Today, our country is making strides. Just for comparison, most OECD countries, their savings as a percentage of GDP is anywhere around 40–45%. China being among the highest is around 55%. Kenya is at 12%. That's how much we save. Means whatever we get, we go to the restaurant, we go to the clothes store, and it's all done. So we changed the contribution structure, and in just 2 years, we have doubled what was saved at our Social Security for 60 years. What was saved for 60 years, we have doubled in 2 years. From 312 billion shillings in 2023, in 2025, we are at 670 billion. By next year, we will be at 1 trillion. In 5 years, in 10 years, we will not be borrowing from other places. We will be building this nation using our own savings and resources. That has earned me a few enemies, but many friends. But that is the progress we are making in our nation. And we will continue. We will continue to stay focused until we redeem every commitment we made in our manifesto to the people of Kenya, so that we can demonstrate that what leaders say they must do. Having said that, it is my expectation that the good people, because you are our face, you are our ambassadors, you are our frontline citizens, wherever it is that you are. On matters diaspora, and given the immense opportunities being created through what I've just discussed, and working closely with the State Department of Diaspora Affairs, you should give it focus with a view to expanding new markets or expanding into new markets and new territories. At the same time, I expect the bilateral frameworks governing the employment of our citizens abroad to be strong, enforceable, and genuinely protective of their rights and their dignity. The third issue, after I have said what the situation looks like, so that you are properly briefed and seized of where we are. The third issue is that where we are today is a good place, but it is not the destination where we should be. We should look further. And we have identified 3 areas that are important for us to focus on as we seek to lift our country to a first world status. And when I say lift our country to a first world status, it's not a statement. It is something that we must and should actualize, because it's possible for us to get this country to where it is, to where we should have it, rather. We have the intention, and the PS said here, that we want to make Nairobi the hub, the diplomatic hub of the world, and the commercial hub of our region. But that requires us to do some work. First, we have undertaken that we have to improve our transport and logistics infrastructure. all of you flew in from different parts of the world. You know very well, we do not have a proper airport. It is true, right? And the building of a new airport terminal has been in the works, at least as far as I remember, the last 15 years. But I just want to give you the good news that we have now the template, we have the framework, and we have already gone to tender so that we can build a new, modern airport for ourselves in Nairobi and subsequently in other parts of the country. We have to improve infrastructure around the country. As we build the Rironi-Mau Summit standard gauge, dual carriageway, before it gets to Mau Summit in April, May next year, we will have hopefully contracted the link from Mau Summit to Malaba, and we will have undertaken other transport corridors. The intention and the plan here is to do 2,500 kilometers of new dual carriageway in Kenya in the last 7 to 10 years, and to double our paved road. From independence to now, we have paved 20,000 kilometers of road, or tarmac, 20,000. That is in 60 years. In 60 years, Japan tarmacked 1 million kilometers. I think there is some difference between 20,000 and 1 million. I don't know whether it is small or a big difference. So what we want to do, we want to tarmac another 28,000 kilometers in Kenya in the next 10 years. And it's possible, and we're going to do it. If you go to any meeting in Kenya, somebody will ask you about a road. Anywhere. This road, and that road, and the other road, and the other road. We just have to do it. We cannot do it piecemeal. We cannot continue discussing 10 kilometers here, 20 kilometers there, 50 kilometers somewhere. We just have to have a comprehensive plan and do it, and have a plan and do it. So, and we need to sort out the port of Mombasa. We need to sort out all the other port infrastructure. That will require about between maybe 10 and 12 billion dollars. It's about 1.5 trillion or thereabout. So, but we're going to look for that money somehow. We will find it and do it. As we do that, we have also to put up the facilities that can host people who want to come to Kenya. You know very well that the last serious conference facility that was done is Kenyatta International Conference Center, right? And it was started with the Harambee. The first meeting was to have a fundraising by some good Kenyans. But somehow, they managed to build it. It has served us well, but it cannot serve us going forward. And that is why we are building the Bomas of Kenya, which will be ready, by the way, in May this year. May this year. Yes. And with it, we have encouraged the private sector, and they've come through to do 3 big hotels, at least with a total bed capacity of 1,500 beds. You know, in Nairobi now, this is the biggest hotel facility we have. Just imagine this one. This space here where other people are standing, ndio wale wamesimama huko. We need to be serious, honestly. So, we need some real investment in hospitality industry in the country. And we are encouraging more people to come on board, and I'm very confident about the future. Whenever we have guests in Nairobi, you know, I have serious problems where to put them. Kempinski has become a small place. Intercont was shut down. The other place, Crown Uko, was shut down. And the other place. So, why? Because we didn't build the conference facility infrastructure that would help support our hotel industry. And that is why, as diplomats, now that we will have a modern conference facility in Kenya, all those meetings that are being held in all those other places should be held in Nairobi. And we are banking on you to work with us so that we can redirect serious major conference facility to our country. We will be hosting the French Africa Summit here for the first time in Nairobi. And we have so many conference facilities lined up. It's very interesting that even before the conference facility in Bomas is ready, there is a long queue of people who want to use that facility. Number 2, and of course, before I finish that, we need to sort out this city. My last meeting last evening was about the city of Nairobi and what we need to do in terms of cleaning it, lighting Nairobi. Nairobi is very dark. Cleaning doing the place. We are the environmental capital of the world with UNEP here and Habitat. But if you go to Nairobi River, it has no indication that we have anything to do with environment. And so we are sorting out Nairobi River. The good news, I just want to tell you, I have a date on the 15th of January next year. We will open up Nairobi River and you will see something very different. Yes. And then we will go to Ngong River and finally have Nairobi in a good place. The second thing we must do is to deal with hunger. We are still a very hungry country. It is very shocking. There are still too many people in Kenya who sleep hungry. Too many. Of course, it's because partly it's because 85% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid, but that is not a reason, because all those arid areas have very good soils. We have enough. They may not have rain, but with harvesting and storage, we can have enough water. So the next thing we are going to do, and it's going to begin this year, we are beginning with the first 15 mega dams this year, is to do water harvesting and storage, and bring at least 2.5 million acres into production. First, to make sure that every person in Kenya has food. You know, there is nothing as demeaning, as dehumanizing as a person who is hungry. So we need to deal with that. And then, of course, we are opening new markets for our products. We have concluded negotiations with one of the largest markets in the world, in China. We will now access the Chinese market duty-free, quota-free, for all our agricultural products, from tea, coffee, avocados, macadamia, and everything else. But we need to produce enough. We need to produce enough. What we are producing at the moment is not enough. We need to produce enough for us to be able to lift our economy. And finally, the third thing we need to do is to generate enough energy. We have a serious energy deficit. We have in our grid 3,300 megawatts. At the minimum, we need another 10,000. We need 3 times what we have at the minimum, if we have to undertake the transformation that is necessary to take our country to the next level. Today, the Ministry of Energy will tell you, every evening, on some peak hours, we have to do load shedding, you know. And what that does, it undermines our economy. Let me give you an example. I was in, what was the name of that place? In Diwa. I was in Diwa someplace. So we went there to commission a transmission line, 69 kilometers of transmission line, which we had built. And the information that we were given is that just because of that transmission line, the sales, electricity consumption, actually, in that particular area, very small area, had doubled because they had reliable energy, which means there is a lot of potential out there, but it's constrained by the amount of energy that is available. Let me give you another example. I went to the US on the famous trip with President Biden when he invited me. And in this big ceremony, we signed a couple of MOUs and programs. And one of them was on data centers, you know, the technology that brings data centers on board. And we signed with Microsoft, Kenya, and a company from the UAE called G42. And I was very happy with it because it was going to be an investment of $1 billion in Kenya to set up the first ever green data center. Until I arrived in Kenya, and when the process started, I was told, Mr. President, for us to implement this project, we need 1,000 megawatts of energy. Okay? So what does that mean? That I shut down half the country to implement this one project. Because if you have 3,000 megawatts and one project wants 1,000, so it was not possible for us to implement this $1 billion project. And there are many other investment opportunities that we are losing because we do not have enough energy. And that is why we have to be innovative. All the three programs I've just said, which are really the basic minimum for us as a country to lift ourselves, requires about $40 billion or 5 trillion Kenyan shillings. That's what we need. And that is why we have, with my team, we have sat down, we have looked at what other countries have done, what has worked elsewhere, what is best practice, and we have created a channel for us to be able to do this. We have to mobilize our own domestic resources. We have to create the correct framework for us to leverage on private money. That is why public-private partnership is a big thing. We are lucky that in Kenya we have a working capital markets ecosystem. Our Nairobi Stock Exchange is one of the best assets that we have. It was the second best stock exchange in the African continent. So we have a real tool for us to be able to leverage private sector money, both locally and globally. And that is the reason why we have set up the National Infrastructure Fund, so that we can use it to mobilize domestic resources through our mature assets like Kenya Pipeline, Safaricom and others. And already the National Infrastructure Fund, we have raised the first 100 billion using the Kenya Pipeline IPO. We will raise another 2.5, at least 2 billion in the next coming months, 2-3 months. And we will move on. And it will be possible for us to leverage that money, use private sector money, deploy using our capital markets, raise more resources from other sources, use our pension funds and others who have a lot of patient money, but they are lacking opportunities to invest. And that is why they are crowded at the treasury bills and buying bonds and what. So we're going to look at that space. And I'm very excited that very many people are coming forward who are very quiet. And they're saying, we have opportunity, we can support here, we have money to help you do this, we have resources. Just give us the right structure, we are going to invest. To be able to have these three work out, we need another 3 enablers. Number one is to up our game in science, innovation, technology, so that we can create the right caliber of people who can assist us with new knowledge on how we take our country to the next level. A country cannot develop beyond its capacity to think. Yes. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. If your thinking goes up to here, that's the end. You cannot. So, and that's why I brought this good man, Professor Shokat from IEA, to come and head our State Department for Science, Research, Innovation. Please see him. Because we need those people. We need these people who, you know, we have a good education system, but We need a higher caliber of thinkers, people who can work with us so that they can help us do the right things. Today, I am the leader of this great nation, but I can tell you, everything I have implemented, it is not just my thoughts. I have pulled a lot of knowledge from very intelligent people who are more intelligent than me. Yeah, I've had to leverage on their intelligence to be able to drive the country forward. Because it is said, wisdom cannot, and knowledge cannot fit in one head. Yeah? One head can only accommodate so much. But people have to be gracious to say there are some things I need the help of other people for us to be able to get ourselves where we want to go, right? That's why research is going to be a very big thing. We're going to deploy more resources in research. We're going to deploy more resources in science, in technology, and we are moving in that direction. That's enabler number one, knowledge. Yes. Number two is security. You know, we are putting together a lot of resources. You will see in matter security, because we live in a very, difficult neighborhood. We have all our countries around us, and we have real security issues. So we need to up our game. We need to modern technology. We are modernizing our police infrastructure. We are modernizing our defense infrastructure. We have to bring in new ways of doing things into this space. It's going to be much more intelligence-led, less about brute force, more about intelligence, more about targeting the right places. And so you will be seeing some of the areas we will be putting our resources in. And then finally, we have to reorganize our software. We need a much more patriotic nation, good people. We need to believe in ourselves. You know, you listen to some people, you think they have a spare country. They talk about Kenya as if this is our country. This is us. We must believe in ourselves. We can do it ourselves. You know? Sometimes I get amazed as to how people believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. Really? You know, I sat at this conference this week at Radisson Blu, and I listened to the country director of the World Bank talk about Kenya. I listened to one gentleman, an investor in BPO, talk about Kenya. I listened to one lady, she runs, I think, Flamingo Flower something in Naivasha, talk about Kenya. And I was amazed as to how other people think about us. They were talking about how good our human capital is, how innovative our people are, how hardworking we are as a people, you know? But you listen to some of our leaders, and you understand, some others have even the audacity to say, oh, you know, we are a failed state. Really? Where? You know? And you want to be a leader in this country. You want to be a leader of a failed state. Anyway. So, good people. And I will tell this to the people of Kenya proudly. We are a great nation. We are a great people. We can do it. Let us believe in ourselves. let us stop the negativity. Let us stop the negativity about our country. Let's project the reality of who we are, you know? And I think we need more about our patriotism, our belief in ourselves, our belief in our nation, and that is really going to make a hell lot of a difference. But slowly, I think we are getting ourselves there, slowly. There are people who are saying nothing is happening in Kenya. Today, their voices are going down because they can see something is happening in our country. And we will continue to push the limits, and I will continue to lead from the front. I will continue. So let me, I think I've been carried away a bit, but let me say this. I really needed to talk to you because you are the people who will talk about our country out there. Please project the right image of our nation. You know, let's get the right image of Kenya.